Yeah, so I'm Ocean. I'm undertaking this project with Pablo and KS and Blackbeard. Each of us have particular roles in the project itself. I myself, I come from Web 2, the Web 2 space. I launched a company called Space Now about a few years back, which was solving a space issue, an underutilization of assets in the real world. And we were working with big tech companies to solve a lot of their remote working access and so on. So you could compare it to like the Airbnb of commercial space. So we sort of come from a background of Web 2. KS and Blackbeard also worked with me in that project. And Pablo has been a long-term friend of mine. I really respect Pablo. He's worked in traditional assets, probably correct me if I'm wrong, Pablo, but for probably the last 15 years, and looks after a big wealth fund of about $500 million per year for his clients. So he comes from that traditional space. So for us, we've got a lot of experience behind us, especially around the Web 2. And when we saw Web 3, we were just really excited by it. We can see and still are very bullish on the metaverse and how this is going to change our lives, and the connectivity that's going to bring is really interesting and really exciting for us.
Yeah, guys. So I've been involved in the project since inception. I'm both an advisor to and a founder and funder of a range of different sort of blockchain projects. My background is really in traditional finance and asset management. So as Ocean mentioned, I've got a background that is in the TradFi space, and I've got a reasonable client book. How that really translates to this project is providing some additional funding, but also understanding how businesses work from the ground up. So working with the team on the back end to really get some good staff structures in place, to get some good corporate governance in place. Things like the production of our white paper, making sure that the things that are really necessities in this space, like having a fully doxed team ticked off. And also just understanding how projects work, having invested in a number of them now, taking it from concept to inception, and that's really there to support the team, and operationally being sort of front facing on the social media side of things as well. So in terms of my background, a little bit different to your traditional NFT founder that you might come across, who would typically be an artist or a developer of some sort, but the way I fit into the team is really just bringing that corporate experience across. So the back end of this, which no one really gets to see except for the guys who are really close to the project, it's tied up really neatly. We operate under professional corporate structures. It's very different to a lot of projects out there, and there's nothing wrong with this. A lot of them are sort of just guys sitting at home creating projects. This has got some real backing behind it. So that's where I come in and just provide that extra bit of credit and a bit of funding from the beginning to really help these guys get off the ground. And then on top of that, we've built out the team, and this is where we are. So it might be a really good way to segue over to Neon, and just so he can give a quick rundown on how he fits into the team as well.
Yeah, I was actually just going to give him an introduction, but what's best to let him do it himself.
What's going on, guys? So, hi, my name is Neon, also known as Brian. And some of you guys might know me from another project, Neon Pantheon. And how I found myself on Salties is a little bit of I guess it's kismet, right? So CR4, who's in the audience right now, who's the head mod, contacted me, told me to go look at this project, and within minutes I was on the phone with Ocean, and everything that he was telling me, I was just getting more and more excited. First of all, pirates, who doesn't love them? It's a huge part of my childhood. But then the utility, right? The art is beautiful, but it's almost secondary in a way. It's the utility behind the art that I'm really fascinated with, and this team is just knocking it out of the park. Every question I had, was answered with a huge amount of knowledge. So I'm really bullish. Now, as far as it seems like Cryptonairz and me have kind of been like revolving around each other, right? So I'm like the hub that keeps bringing projects to Cryptonairz, and vice versa. So I'm really enjoying the relationship that I'm having with this team, and liking the people I'm meeting so far. And yeah, can't wait to get started. Yeah, that's it.
Why don't you guys tell us a little bit about Salty Pirate Crew?
Yeah, definitely. We basically, when we came to space and we fell in love with it, we had a real deep dive into what was really making NFTs, and what was the hook and what particular projects were doing. So the first step of what we did was we came into the market and we did a bit of a deep dive. And the reason why we did that is we needed to understand the landscape a little bit better. As I'm sure a lot of people were in the same boat, because it is still really relatively new. And we came across quite a number of projects that we fell in love with immediately, and I think everybody else has at the same time. And we had a look at what they were doing that made them what they are today. We had a look at a lot of other projects, and we started to formulate our own sort of key metrics for making a successful NFT. And we came down to 3 metrics, 1 being community, 2 utility, and 3 transparency. So after doing that deep dive, we had a look around the NFT landscape as well, and noticed that there was a huge amount of animal profile picture compilations. So we wanted to try and do something a little bit different, because we do know that the space is constantly, like, you'll never see this type of behavior and replicating projects. Like, I think we've seen 25 different derivatives of doodles. That would never happen in the Web 2 space. Yeah, it would never happen in the Web 2 space. So it's a little bit different, and it behaves differently. So, and in saying that, I think that the landscape's going to evolve, definitely. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to put a little bit of our own DNA on NFTs, and pirates is where we landed on, because, like Brian said, you almost can't find a collection that doesn't have an eye patch or a pirate hat. Everybody does love them. So it's really, we thought that, there wasn't really a really well done pirate project out there. And for us, what we really wanted to do is we wanted to take that genre and really bring them forward into the more sort of cyberpunk, sort of metaverse feel. So when you look at our art, you don't get that sort of traditional pirate look. You get a blend of what we're seeing in terms of this transition into Web3. So we've tried to carry that into our project, and we want to carry that into our art, and we also want to carry it through our roadmap and through our storyline. And as we develop our lore and we start to uncover little bits and pieces about how this whole thing's going to fit together in terms of our island and the ship and everything that we're working towards in our metaverse, a lot of that's really going to tie in really well to our marketing. So for us, it was a clear direction to try and do something a little bit different in this space, because it is evolving, it is new, but for us, we fell in love with that space immediately when we saw that digital ownership and people being able to, own assets online. So, we're very excited by this, and this is our first project, and we're very, very excited by it. We're putting a lot of effort and energy into it. Allyson, you've done at least one of our treasure hunts, so you know how much effort we just put into those alone. So we are working a lot in the background to provide a really great project for our community.
Sorry, Allyson, go ahead.
Oh no, that's okay.
I was going to say, just building on that, because my experience is in traditional finance, I really needed to see a clear return on investment, not just for myself, but for anyone investing in this project. So basically, what I needed to find was the path and the roadmap that would get us there. And that is really through the utility of the project that we've outlined in the white paper. So through this project, there'll be staking, there'll be breeding available, there'll be metaverse access through a variety of different drops that you'll have to access through the generation of our native token. And these will have real tangible value that you'll be able to trade amongst the community and others externally as well. So if you have a look at some other projects that have done similar things to what we're thinking of, the BYO pills, how they had different items that you needed to either claim or pay for to access their metaverse. That's the sort of thing that we're looking at in terms of building this out. We have ideas in terms of actually having a ship where you can buy cabins within it as well. We've also got within the roadmap the idea for the build out on Sandbox as well. So we've got some very firm milestones in place in terms of creating value for the community. And looking at this, you can access a pirate for a relatively low cost, and just by owning and holding that pirate, you're going to get access to a whole range of different things right from the jump without having to spend much more money. So your loyalty would be rewarded right from the jump. So I might let the boys talk a little bit more on the roadmap specifically and how that looks, because I think it's really important for the audience to understand timeframes, how quickly will you see return on your investment, how fast will things start to progress, because I think once that becomes a little bit more tangible, then that's something that you can get really excited about.
Well, why don't we start with, for anyone that is listening in the audience, if they haven't had the opportunity to visit your website, which is saltypiratecrew.io, let's talk about how much does it cost for someone to get access to a pirate, and where would they do that?
So we've got a 3K Genesis collection, and they'll be able to mint pre-sale if they're whitelisted from the 22nd of January, and that'll last for 2 days. And then we'll go into public sale the day after the pre-sale finishes. And you can do all of that on saltypirate.io, saltypiratecrew.io, sorry.
And the next question, I was actually going to ask this at the end, but since you did bring up the whitelist, lately I've been seeing, and I already know what you guys are going to say, because again, in the audience, you're going to find this out very quickly after listening to this team talk, that they place a lot of importance on their community. It is their main focus. They want to bring value to the community. But one thing I have noticed recently in some of these drops is that projects are oversubscribing the whitelist. So then everyone that ends up being whitelisted isn't able to mint. Are you guys going to be doing that?
Yeah, so I think a lot of projects do that as a way to sort of arm themselves, because there is an oversaturation of NFTs in the marketplace at the moment. So it's a way for them to make sure, because every project wants to mint out as fast as possible, because that's a measure of success for a lot of people. With going back to the community, I feel like a lot of projects build a lot of hype and FOMO, and that's where we try to differentiate ourselves a little bit from the rest. We've come out initially completely all doxed. We wanted to build a community from the ground up, from grassroots. We've done it pretty much the complete opposite way of a lot of other projects that we've seen. And we did that because we listened to the market. The market was, a lot of people were saying, we want to see more docs teams. We want to make sure that we're getting into projects that we know who the founders are. We want more transparency and so on. And we did that right from the jump. And we did it without paid shillers. We did it without all the bots that people use to hype up or pump up their numbers on Discord. We didn't care if we had 50 or 100 people to start with. We just wanted to make sure that we did it organically, which is something that we don't see a lot in this space. Yet everybody's asking for that, but people are still behaving in a way where we're getting thousands of people, and I see it every single day, jumping into projects where no roadmap's been discussed, no sneak peek of any art has been shown. We are still operating in a very hype and FOMO market, and everybody's still making the same complaints when they feel like they get into a project and then it gets rugged. So we're doing the complete opposite, and we're finding it a lot harder, but we don't care about taking the difficult route. What's important for us is establishing a really strong community, because at the end of the day, Salty Pirate Crew is a DAO, and a DAO can only be as successful as its members, because the members submit proposals and vote on the things that we do inside of our DAO. So if we have a whole bunch of people in there that are buying into projects just based on hype and FOMO, they're really only in there for a quick gain. And what we're trying to do is build a project similar to, and I hate comparing ourselves to these top tier projects, but we want to build a project kind of like BAYC, where people are banded together. The community is really strong. And it's that key metric community, which I said when we did that deep dive. It's really important that the community is the foundation of the DAO, because the DAO is only as strong as those people that and the members that have joined us. So we had no care in the world for the hype and FOMO. A lot of that's going to come as we get to different stages, because we have a really big network and we'll be bringing in a lot of people at certain stages. For us, it was about setting up that community right from the beginning to make sure that we had the right people in the community, rather than trying to sell on hype and FOMO.
And Allyson, real quick, to touch on a little bit on the question about everybody who's on the whitelist getting a chance to mint. We're still looking at a bunch of different options, ways that we can reduce the cost of minting, if not almost eliminate it entirely, depending on whether or not we can bridge to Polygon. But one of the things that we might do, this is not a guarantee by any stretch, but this is something we're looking at, is to make the pre-sale 2 parts. So the first part would be everybody in the whitelist gets to mint 1 pirate. So everybody is guaranteed 1 pirate. And then, so that lasts for the first 6 hours or whatever the case may be. And then the rest of the pre-sale is like a free-for-all. People can mint however many. If there's a cap, then they can mint up to the cap. If there's not, then they can mint as many as they want. But that way, because I agree, I've been a part of 3 whitelist pre-sales recently where I didn't actually get a chance to mint. And one of them was the Primate mint, which I was super salty about, pardon the pun. So I definitely don't want to see that happen here, because theoretically we could sell out in the pre-sale. And I don't want to see anybody in the whitelist get left out of that.
Yeah, I'm really glad you pointed that out, Brian. We've been looking at quite a number of strategies, and the one that Brian just mentioned is one of those strategies. Another one, and what we've been looking at quite recently, is the number of people on our whitelist will confirm. So there are people that are whitelisted currently, and projects go through this, or they experience this problem all the time, is their whitelisting process might last for a month or sometimes longer. And some of the people that originally signed up for the whitelist in the beginning actually don't have any intention of doing that because they've forgotten about the project, or a month's a long time in NFTs, so they don't actually go ahead with that. So we've decided to actually take the wallets from the whitelist list that we put together right at the end of our treasure hunt. And the reason why we want to do that is we want to make sure that it's the most current list that we can have possible moving into the pre-sale. And then based on the number of wallets that we have, we'll just do a simple division of the number of people by the actual total supply as a maximum. So for example, there's a 3K supply for Salty Pirates. If there is 1,000 people on the whitelist, or we have 1,000 wallets by the end of it, then we'll make the maximum amount 3. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to do it, but we won't have an opportunity where someone will miss out.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And actually, I do know why projects oversubscribe the whitelist, because you just pointed it out. Oftentimes, someone will sign up and they simply forget that they signed up for the whitelist. And projects were running into situations where it was taking them much longer to mint out because they had misjudged based on the whitelist. So that's actually a fantastic plan. You briefly talked about, or you touched base on, the DAO is only as strong as the community. So let's get into the DAO. I noticed in the tokenomics that 50% of initial sales will go towards funding the DAO. And then, so you're going to have things funded like immediately. In your white paper, you do have a group of people that will be starting the DAO. My question is there going to be an opportunity for community members to become core contributors to the DAO?
Yes. So everybody that holds a pirate will be a DAO member. So we're trying to, right now, a lot of projects and a lot of DAOs are using a lot of off-chain tools to actually manage the DAO, and you'll notice that they use Snap voting, or there's some tools that are off-chain, and they're using those to run the governance and for them to submit proposals. Our goal is to be completely on-chain. So right to start with, we'll be using some off-chain tools to actually allow for people to submit proposals and to vote on specific things that we do in the DAO. However, we will be moving across to a complete on-chain governance structure that we're building into our smart contracts. So we'll actually eventually have the token be used to submit proposals. They'll also be used for some other things that have interaction with the smart contract and the governance. So anybody that holds a pirate will have that percentage of the voting rights. So if someone holds 5 pirates, they'll have 5 out of 3,000 pirates as a vote. So everybody that holds one initially will be a part of the DAO, and then each time someone sells their pirate, a new person will take their place as the DAO member.
Great.
Brian, did you want to add?
No, I think you said it perfectly, honestly. Okay. Look, it's not a coincidence that we're sitting here talking to you guys. We want, and I've kind of trying to be making the rounds to some of the more informed and knowledgeable communities with regard to bringing them on board to our project, because like Ocean said earlier, your DAO is only as good as your community. And if we have a weak community that is full of unknowledgeable people, they're going to make poor decisions when it comes to the DAO. So talking to Cryptonairz and communities like Cryptonairz is absolutely crucial to the success of this thing.
And that's the reason why we try and hold these treasure hunts, Allyson, is to try and identify people that are relatively clued into solving problems. It's not the only metric that we look for with DAO members. It's always about quality of engagement and so on. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we can't control it because the DAO function, that's not the way it works. We want to be a completely on-chain solution. But what we really want to do is we want to avoid a lot of the pitfalls that we see a lot of other projects use to avoid the type of members that they bring in. That's why we've focused a lot on the community and the organic growth, is so we can try and avoid people that are here not for the long term and the longevity of the project, but we can avoid people that we typically call paper hands in the industry.
And one more thing I'd like to add is sometimes bringing ideas to Ocean can be frustrating for me, because I'll come up with what I consider to be a freaking brilliant idea, and I'm like, what do you think of this? All excited. He's like, look, man, I really like that, but we're gonna have to let the DAO vote on it. So like every decision, every idea that I come up with, he's like, look, yeah, this is amazing, but we got to make sure that the DAO wants it. We got to make sure the DAO wants it. So he's living and breathing this community first talk. It's not just hot air. It's something that we've all come to really believe in.
And sorry, Allyson, we're also committing 60% of the.
That's actually what I've been waiting to say, that I wanted to correct the mistake that I had made. So I'm so sorry about that. Yes, 60%. Sorry.
Yeah, and that DAO money is going to be used for purchasing metaverse land and helping us develop in those spaces so we can build our pirateverse.
Okay, so let's talk about what happens after you mint a pirate. The pirate will be, you can stake your pirate, and then the pirate will be earning 10 salt a day. So could you tell us a little bit about that? And I actually did have one question. Is there any opportunity, because everyone's going to want to stake their pirate. I don't know why someone would mint and then not stake. So have you thought about, I know that you're working on the Polygon Bridge solution to try to cut down on costs for collectors and investors, but have you thought about a mint and stake function? So like right when you mint it, it automatically stakes?
Yeah, there are auto staking solutions, which are great, but that doesn't really help with the supply issue. So where we've seen projects really benefit from the staking is the supply. So if you have a look at a project like Mutant Cats, for example, not the best long-term example because of the way they set up their tokens, but the way that they did that was really clever. Is they actually used the staking to take the number of the number of cats down. So the auto staking remains the total supply of 3,000. So we know we're kind of estimating numbers when we look at the type of metrics that we're looking at for the community, but we anticipate probably anywhere between 60 to 80% of people staking. Some projects have up to a 90% stake, which means that if we were to have a 90% stake, that would mean that there would only be 300 pirates for sale, which would be an insane supply crunch, which would mean that the project overall would start to be really hard to obtain a pirate. So we know that the secondaries are really important for the DAO because that continuously provides more funding for the DAO, because we allocate 50% of the secondaries towards the DAO as well. So it's really important to have that. But that supply shock that we want to create is for the longevity of the project. So if we can reduce the number of pirates that are actually available, that's good long term for the project. So yes, we have looked at auto staking, but that doesn't help with the supply or the number of pirates still available for sale.
Okay. Actually didn't think of it that way, so thanks for that.
I was just going to say we are working on that Polygon bridge to make staking cheap. One of the biggest drains and killers, and it takes a lot of the fun out of any project, is when you mint a pirate or an NFT and you pay sometimes between $100 and $200 in gas, and then the minting cost is $20 for the contract, accepting the contract, and then another $150 to stake. And then every time you claim the tokens, because you've got to shift the tokens from our UI into your MetaMask, you're then again paying another transaction fee. So each time you interact with the smart contract, you're getting hit with fees, and I feel like that sucks the fun and enjoyment out of any project that does that. So we've been looking at the Polygon bridge specifically to be able to do our staking and the tokens, so that it makes the whole project more enjoyable, because if we can get it right, it'll mean that everything costs less than $1 or a few cents.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're so right. It can be so expensive. And that also limits the people that are able to participate, because sure, they might be able to afford to mint. Then when you add all the additional costs, they're just not able to. So
we're lucky that we're not trailblazers. So we've been able to sit back for a little time and really see some of the things that projects do really well, and we've been able to identify some of the pitfalls and things that really crunch a project. So we've been working on solutions for everything that we've seen in other projects, which means that we're able to come out with the best that we can in terms of a project and roadmap and community and, you know, reducing gas costs because of the mistakes we've seen in the past.
What do you think has been the most difficult problem that you've had to solve?
The art, because we have so many different variations of pirates that not every single layout fits on each layer. So it's been a very big challenge for us to, number one, have all the variations work with each body type, but also because we're providing each artwork as an SVG, so not a PNG, it means that the quality of the image is going to be insane. So like you'll be able to take your pirate and you'll be able to blow it up big enough to put on the side of a building. That's how good the quality will be. So we had with working with the artist, we had a layering issue with the SVGs. So Blackbeard actually had to go in and work on every single color transition between each layer to reduce the transparency sort of edge between each color, because as the conversion tool worked and moving the drawings that we did, because they're all hand drawn, and moving them to SVG presented a huge problem, and we've probably spent maybe 200 hours or more on fixing those little color tweaks on the SVGs.
And on my end, you know, I'm not involved in the dev work at all. I think that the biggest challenge, and I think Ocean will agree with this in a little bit as well, is taking a project from 0 to 1 has been much more challenging than I originally might have given it credit for, especially the way that we're trying to grow the community and trying to grow the project organically without shilling. I've done a fair amount of shilling, let's be honest. Without like paid influencers and invite competitions and ranking and that sort of stuff. And basically it's just come down to hitting Discord's hard, you know, trying to find alpha channels that you can post your information on. And I think for me, that's been one of the more challenging aspects of this, is going from that 0 to 1.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that. You feel like you're going to launch your product and everyone's going to join. That's the feeling that you have in the beginning, but it's not the case at all. And you find out very, very quickly it's a pay to play game, and the influencers really control the market, and you really have to pay quite a lot of money to work with those influencers, and some of them are asking ridiculous money. And we spoke to a few of them, and you know, it didn't correlate with our overall design to actually build this community from grassroots. So we've done it the hard way. I agree with you totally, Brian. And he's done most of the legwork in that community growth for us. So hats off to you, mate. Like, you put a really big effort in there, and it's really starting to pay off. I really feel like that organic community that we built in the beginning has really paid dividends now, and is something that we can be proud of as we move forward into the next steps of the project.
For sure.
I really want to put an emphasis on the amount of time that was spent on the artwork. I really hope that people appreciate that, because there are projects putting out artwork that it is clear that not a lot of time was spent, and they're charging much more to mint than this project that has put a lot of care and attention into the art. And that's just art, not counting all of the other things community focused that Salties has done. So I just wanted to give some props for that, because a lot of projects cut corners there, and more projects should be recognized that don't. But moving on from that,
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's true. I see a lot of projects, and definitely can tell the difference.
Yeah, it's important for us. I mean, like, not many DAOs really do focus on the art itself. We wanted people to be proud to hold the art, because long term we have very big plans for the art, especially with IRL brand collaborations, and you can't do that if you don't have great art. So a big part of our roadmap, and we can talk about it in a minute if you want to talk more about roadmap, but a big part of our roadmap is going to be working with brands in real life, and using our assets in ways that I don't think anyone else is thinking of at the moment. So pretty excited about some of the things that are in the works and we're planning on. But that crossover into IRL, I think, is one of the key things that we see with successful projects, is that collaboration from Web3 into IRL.
Yes, I would love to touch base on that, but quickly before we do, I just wanted to get back to the pirates will, if you're staking, you'll be earning 10 salt a day. And what can the community do with their 10 salt a day? Because I know that you have some pretty big plans there.
Yeah, so it's basically step by step. So each step takes us to the next step. And what's important is we continually find ways to continually fund the DAO, which means that we continually increase the treasury of the DAO, which is important, which means that we can be more bullish on metaverse and we can do more with that. But initially, as you start to stake and you start to earn your tokens, you'll be able to do things like recruit new members to your DAO. So there's a free mint where you'll be able to get a female pirate, which we're creating like a secondary range. And that female pirate is really, really key to the roadmap from there. To obtain that companion, well, we're not calling it a companion, but to recruit the crew member, you actually have to use that salt to go on quests. You'll need to achieve a certain number of quests to actually get to that mint. So that provides a deflationary mechanism to the token. So for people to be able to get to that recruitment level, there's quite a few steps that they'll need to embark on to actually be able to make it that far. Once they do that, then we start to look at things like we start creating cabins on our ship. So overall, the DAO, we want to be like one big ship, and we want to start to sell space on that ship. So we'll be creating some NFTs that represent each room on the ship. So we'll have really basic rooms that'll probably consist of like a bunk, and then we'll go up to really extravagant rooms that will have chandeliers and all types of furniture, and they'll all be quite unique. And you'll be able to actually upgrade those. So you'll be able to change the art on the walls, the furniture, etc. So you can really make them your own. That's pretty much the first stage of the roadmap. Then the roadmap goes into more VX pirates, being able to build skins for the metaverse, building inside of the metaverse so that we can have what we call our Pirateverse. And that will be a community-based place for us to hang out, do social things, hold events. We have a very big event coming up at the end of our pre-sale for all of our for all the holders that we'll have, and for the DAO at that point, where we have a pirate ship in a virtual world that we're going to be using. We have a DJ, we have some site activations that we're going to be using. So people will be able to come along to a virtual party that we hold straight after the pre-sale. So we are working on a lot of events. The first couple of events are going to be virtual experiences. But moving from there, and as the metaverse starts to evolve as well, we'll start looking at ways to enhance those experiences. But also that IRL stuff that we spoke about, being able to do some activations in some spaces here in Australia, and then depending on the success of the DAO, moving into other locations where we have like a high number of members.
That's really exciting. I mean, there's a lot going on there. And right now, just as a reminder, we haven't even started. Well, Salties haven't even started the pre-sale yet. So, can we touch base on what the community is doing now to get ready for the pre-sale? We talked about a treasure hunt.
Yeah, so the treasure hunt is a way for us to meet new members. It's a way for us to identify, highly engaged participants. It's a way for us to meet people that are going to be good for the DAO long term, and it's a highly engaging activity that people really enjoy. I know you did the last one, Allyson. I think you said you really enjoyed it.
I did, yeah.
The one we've just done now, I'm getting the same type of feedback, probably even better. We've had some people use it as a date night. We've had people say that they've never experienced like a escape room on a computer, the way that we set these things up. So, it's for us, it's a way of helping get closer to the pre-sale, identifying new members, building our whitelist, increasing engagement, but also preparing us for the virtual events and the influences that we have about to come into the project. So we didn't want to do that whitelist. Like I mentioned, hype and FOMO was the one thing that we wanted to avoid. So that's the type of stuff that we want to do to start bringing value to the holders once they've minted. We feel like that's a better way to build a great community and start to show real benefit to those that have been with us for a while, and those that mint, is to reward them with excitement around the project after. So that's what we've been working towards. We've been doing collaborations with other servers. We've got some events that we've got lined up with actual real life sponsors. We've been talking to a number of athletes, a number of DJs that are globally recognized, that are really interested and excited about the project as much as we are. But it's all a matter of timing for us, because like our utility roadmap and our token roadmap, we also have an influencer roadmap, and that needs to tie into the organic community growth that we're really focused on.
And just to touch on that a little bit, I think Ocean is being very humble in his description of things, but really when it comes down to it, that hype and FOMO that a lot of projects are using to build their communities to begin with, that's not happening for us until after the mint. After the mint is when there's so many things lined up that we're waiting to hit certain milestones before we even introduce them to the community. So we're kind of taking we're not trailblazers, but we're taking a pretty revolutionary approach in how we're growing the community. We have everything we need to be a huge project, but we don't want to start that way. So I can't wait to mint, because that's when all the fun stuff is going to happen.
The other thing that's worth mentioning in relationship to the mint is that I've had a really good look at the model, and the founders aren't lining their pockets like you see in a lot of other mints. So there's like a clear breakdown on the financial model between what's going to ongoing development, what's going to the DAO. It's being run like a real business. Then the other thing that I'm seeing is we only allocated 1 pirate each to the founders. What did you see? Other projects, when they've got a hot project, they allocate 50 or whatever it is, or sometimes 20 or 30 per head, and they're sort of lining their own pockets. So that's not happening here, and we're all buying our own pirates during the mint as well. So we're definitely aligning ourselves with the community in terms of being on the hook, and if not being on the hook, more so financially, from fronting up that extra cash to cover things like the initial dev piece, gas fees, getting the artwork actually deployed to each of the holders during the mint, because we haven't really done like a big pre-sale event or anything like that. So with this project, the guys and myself have definitely put our money where our mouth is, and it's one of those things where you don't often see that level of transparency in a lot of these projects, because it's an unregulated market and people can get away with not doing that. But in this instance, you see like a very high level of transparency from the team.
appreciate that. Sorry, Grant. Yeah, I just wanted to say that I buy into a lot of NFT projects, and personally, knowing all of these things that you've mentioned that you have lined up, and reading your paper, being in the Discord, listening to other AMAs that you have, you could easily blow this project up and get 20,000 people in your server. And then that's really disappointing for key community members that have been there with you guys for the past few months, participating, attending the AMAs, because when it becomes a situation like that, as just a regular person that's not a whale, that just, collects NFTs, it can be really disheartening knowing that, like, oh, great, I'm never going to get to mint this project. Like, I'm going to have no chance. So I appreciate the route that the team has decided to take, like going the opposite way that other teams have. It just shows your commitment to the community. So again, I wanted to say that I appreciate that.
Thank you, Allyson. I feel like it's really great as well that we've gotten to know our community really well as well, because the key community members are easy to identify, and they're helping us all along the way, which is exactly what we want to see from a DAO, is that level of community that, like, is what we all talk about, but often rarely see. So I feel like we've got a really strong community. We're looking to grow that, obviously, as we progress past our pre-sale. But for now, we're really happy and content with the community that we have today, and we look forward to rewarding them for being there as long as they have. Well, we have a couple of partners with some projects. We're unable to mention the names of some of the influencers that we have going on, because that's part of the process and our influencer roadmap. But we have a particular partner with a agency down in Melbourne, which is just south of Sydney, in Australia, and they're a branding and fashion agency. So they're very, very tapped into a big network in Australia, but also globally. And working with them, I've worked with them a lot on a lot of Web2 projects. And they're just incredible in what they can do and what they deliver, the type of clients they have. They work with guys like Red Bull and some major global brands. And they've come in as partners with us into this project because they see what we see, and they feel the passion, and they get to chat to us daily and see what we're working on. But they've got a team of about 50 people, which they're able to deploy when we need. There's a couple of really key people in that group in No Standing that we're very close to, but also are helping us every step of the way. They're supporting what we're doing. They love the fact that we're not trying to build the hype right at the start, but we're being very methodical about when we start to implement those type of relationships, and they're completely on board with that. And a lot of them are actual holders of the pirates themselves. A lot of people don't know this, but a couple of our holders are very key people in the community as well. So we do already have some backing that we've kept really silent, and that's on purpose. And we've got a couple of key people in our community that have some really interesting businesses that can align with us down the track. So I feel like we've got a really great community that we can build a lot of partnerships on. We have some partnerships with some great communities like the Cryptonairz. We feel like there's a lot of education going on in servers like this, and it's a key indicator for us to align ourselves with servers like the Cryptonairz that are really educating the people in the server, but also holding AMAs that are really helpful for projects like us, but also like in general in the market. So there's quite a few things going on, and we'll start to disclose those as we come closer to those timeframes and points in the project where we feel like they need to be announced. Well, from the feedback that we've had from the treasure hunts, I think we'll be having them quite regularly. They are fairly time consuming, so we can't be pumping them out once a week. But what we want to try and do is maybe try and align them with gaps in roadmap. So, for example, if we're deploying a new feature for our roadmap and we estimate it taking 2 weeks, we'd be looking to implement a treasure hunt or something that's engaging for people during that period, so that we're constantly still engaging with them, and they still feel like things are going on, because sometimes some features take a little bit of time to develop. So it's really, really important that we use treasure hunts, and I think we see a lot of projects use poker tournaments and stuff like that. We want to try and think outside of just poker. We want to try and provide, social events. We want to try and provide, DJ, party, like virtual parties. We want to try and create so things like that are actually super engaging, because we obviously want to make sure that everybody's engaged and we're continually getting the most out of the community, because the community can really help push any project. Definitely. I mean, we're going to always be open to proposals through the DAO. So if proposals submitted and it makes financial and timing sense, and it gets enough votes, then we will always look at the type of community engagement that we've got and working with that to try and build out the best things possible for the community. So making pets and stuff like that is definitely something that we could look at. I think Brian's got a lot of ideas around gamification, which I don't know if we have time for, but if Brian does have a second, I definitely feel like we should listen to some of the ideas that he's had and brought forward. Just, it's not essentially what the DAO will be working on, but it's just some of the community members and the ideas that they're providing could give you a bit of an idea of the type of proposals that we'll probably receive, and the community, what they'll be able to vote on based on what makes the most financial sense. So I don't know if we have time, but that could be a good way of answering that question.
Yeah, so real quick, when I was talking to the Ocean, I started coming up with all sorts of ideas, and one of them was further on down the road to actually mint pirate ships. So have anywhere from I don't know, maybe 100 different pirate ships that you could mint and make them expensive, like 1 ETH each. And each pirate ship comes with its own captain. And then those captains can now start recruiting members of the Salty Pirate crew to board their ship, you know, and then you can, as your own little pirate faction, you can go on raiding parties, invade other people's islands, invade other people's ships, earn salt, doubloons, whatever the case may be. And then even further on down the road, since we're basically allocating so much of the DAO into the metaverse and acquiring land, we could eventually have our own pirate islands, and you could mint areas on the pirate islands. So you could end up with a tavern, a one-of-one tavern, where you have you make money selling liquor. Or you could have a bordello, you know, just any areas of ill repute on the island you could mint a part of and start earning money that way. And then in addition, the pets is an amazing idea as well. So these are the sorts of things that we'll probably be looking at as a DAO later on down the road, and see what makes sense financially for us, and more importantly, what makes sense for the engagement and enjoyment of our community.
One thing is, we'll never say no. So we're happy to listen to anything, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a DAO, so it'll be a DAO decision. So we encourage as many great ideas as possible. What we can do and what we can achieve is a totally different thing. But we want a community that is always providing ideas like Brian. We get a lot of ideas from a lot of members. Like, I know CR4's in the audience. He probably calls me on a daily basis with ideas. So it's really great to see the community really starting to think of our roadmap, or beyond our roadmap even, and what it could look like in the future. So to answer the question, I know it was a long-winded answer, but we are open to anything and everything, and it's a DAO, so we'll be looking to implement the DAO structure to make decisions.
Right?
That doesn't even scratch the surface. I was just going to say, that doesn't even scratch the surface of some of the ideas that Brian's come up with. So, I mean, that's probably one of his best, but not his last. So the short-term goal is to implement our short-term roadmap and to make sure that the community is exactly what we've been looking for. I think the shortest term goal for us is building a great community and building a strong network where people get to know each other. We have the events, we do things to socialize, and in doing that, we start to form what we've seen being done in some of the projects I mentioned earlier on. The way that they gel, the way that they get together, the way that they communicate, it is the most important thing that I've seen. If a project wants to be successful, it needs to make sure that its community is rock solid. So the shortest term goal that we have is to build the best community possible. The short to medium term goal is to build out our roadmap and start making our way towards the metaverse. I think there's going to be a lot of different metaverses. So identifying which one's going to be the best is obviously one of the toughest jobs. But what we really want to do is put a section of the community together to actually help us with the research. We actually hired a mod the other day who is very bullish on metaverse, doing a lot of research. I think he might even be from this community. He is going to be helping us with understanding the user adoption, the time to build. We're going to be putting case studies together on the different types of metaverses that we like. To answer the question specifically, I feel like, and this is just me personally, I feel like building in a metaverse where you have connectivity with other projects is going to be the most important. because it's going to be that collaboration and building with other brands and other projects that's really going to be the most exciting. Having your own sort of metaverse keeps us, together, and we've already got iteration 1 of our own type of metaverse, which we can kind of call like we call it our pirateverse. We can get together, we can move around, we can walk around, we can talk to one another. But I really feel like it's that connectivity with other brands and other communities that's going to be really important in the metaverse.
I agree. The metaverse that's going to win out is the metaverse that has the most people interacting within it, and that's basically the way it goes. And I can just kind of imagine eventually there being technology where there's portals between metaverses, so that you can connect between different metaverses, and just imagine your pirate ship basically sailing from metaverse to metaverse, doing unruly, unlawful shit. I just I see so much potential for this project in the metaverse in particular, but I think initially finding the right one is going to be so important.
I'm glad you touched on that, and I think we're probably running out of time, but that whole lore and story behind pirates and us being adventurous and explorers and nomadic is really going to play into the metaverse. It's kind of one of the reasons why we decided to do Pirates 2, is because we feel like they will flourish inside of the metaverse, especially along the particular attributes that they have and what we can bring forward. So I'm really excited by that. I know a lot of the community is as well. So our connection between metaverse, pirates, and some IRL stuff is really quite unique. The alpha will come. We are looking at ways to provide or give back to the community. One of the major ones that we are starting to look at is the clean up the oceans. As a pirate, it's there's a big connection between pirates and the ocean. So if we can try and align ourselves with a particular community or a resource. Sorry, what was that?
A cause. Align ourselves with a cause. Yeah.
Cause that we can align ourselves with that's focused on cleaning up the ocean, because there's a real problem with plastic. That is something that we haven't really discussed externally to the community, but it's something internally that we all are very we feel strongly about, and the connection with pirates makes a lot of sense.
There's one thing that you touched on earlier, which I think is alpha, and people aren't really going to realize until we do it. But on the day when we mint, we're going to have some fairly major names buying into this, and they'll be tweeting about it. So it'll be very front facing. There are 4 or 5 of them that we have through our traditional marketing connections that we talked about earlier. These are fairly major guys with big followings. So we're sort of dropping that here now, just so everyone knows that we're going to give our community who've been with us as a loyal community members an opportunity to get in first, but then we'll be pushing this out to a broader community, once the mint is underway. So we're going to give all of our loyal guys the first shot at getting us off pirate, and that way it's a really fair and level playing field. And then we're sort of going to pull out the big guns once the mint is open. So I guess the only thing I would say is just keep an eye out for that, and we're pretty excited for it.
Yep, I can hang around and do that.
Yep, I'm good.
Yeah, just a quick mention on that, guys. Please have a go at it. It's super enjoyable. The way to get the most out of that is to do it with a team, because some of the challenges are a little bit challenging. We've got a chat or a general chat in our Discord that people are talking between one another, which is pretty cool. Pretty sure you've got one here that you could use, or at least a chat at the very least. Have a go at it. It's really fun. Anybody that completes it gets an automatic whitelist, and we're raffling off a free Salty Pirate NFT to one of the people that complete it. So please have a go. Give us your feedback. Tell us what you think. We're always looking to improve for the next one. That'd be great. Thank you, Allyson. Thank you, Grant. We really appreciate your time.
Cheers, guys. Thank you
so much. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.